you who are Muslims or any of you who are trying to support the Quran and its veracity, you've got a real problem with Mary. You've got a real problem with Mary. And you've got an even bigger problem with the Qibla. If you have any doubts, come and watch, and I'll show you just how bad your Quran is.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you as always for joining us, and thank you for your comments and interactions. Hopefully you've been enjoying this video series, and I hope that by now you have bought at least this book that we named our series after, which is Creating the Quran by Dr. Stephen Shoemaker. And I'm hoping, and I really mean it, that one day we'll find a way to interview him, and that he would agree also to be in the show with me and Jay, whether remotely or maybe even in person, whatever suits him. But the idea is that we are trying to really showcase this book, use a lot of quotations from this book. But now we've been going through also a number of episodes to try to provide you with supplemental material, sometimes from different video series that we've done in the past. And we've been focusing lately on some of the internal errors, historical errors that the Quran had made. In other words, its internal problems. And today is no exception. We will be talking about at least one, possibly two of those problems. And with me here to discuss all of that, as always, our dear brother, Dr. Jay Smith. Dr. Jay, welcome back.
Yeah. Stephen goes into a number of examples, and one of the examples he gives here of these anachronisms, he talks about the anachronism, is the one we're going to talk about next, which is the problem with Mary. And he starts from the premise that when you are going from orality to a written text, so it starts with orality. He says the orality comes from Muhammad. I don't agree with that. You don't agree with that. But nonetheless, he says once these people, these disciples of Muhammad, move up to the north, isn't that convenient? They go to the north and they bring these stories with them. They come into contact with all these different groups, these different Christian groups, which were rampant. That I agree with. There were many different Christian groups. There were Trinitarians. There were what are the name? Maphisites. There's you have different groups that are coming out of from Merv way up in what is today Uzbekistan. We know that the Marwan family comes from there. They were anti-Trinitarians, not Aryans, but they were anti-Trinitarians. They are the ones that take over Damascus. Bu'uwiyah was part of the Sufyani family, gets over into the Marwan family in about 680. So you have these different groups bringing their different sectarian views. Now, as they bring their sectarian views, according to what Stephen says, is these groups of disciples who are coming out of the Hijaz, coming up to the north. I don't agree with that, but nonetheless, we need to quote him. They come into contact with these different sectarian groups, and they're hearing different stories. Well, they're writing these down. How can illiterate people write them down? I don't know. Nonetheless, they're writing down, but they're writing this part from here, this part from here, and this from other groups, and they're not thinking through that they're actually writing contradictory material down. And a case in point are what we see in chapter 19, chapter 66, and chapter 20 of the Quran. So I'm going to put up the slide there. Let's see the slide right there. And these are references to Mary, the mother of Jesus. And you see in every case, a lot of times it's Isa ibn Maryam, the son of Mary. But this same Mary, according to chapter 19, verse 28, it refers to her. It says, "O Mary, you have certainly done a thing unprecedented, O sister of Aaron." Mother of Jesus, talking to her, she is the sister of Aaron. Well, immediately red flags go up. Why do red flags go up when you hear that?
Because it seems to me that the Quran made a massive error here in assuming that Maryam, that's how we say in Arabic the word for Mary, Maryam, the mother of Jesus, to be the sister of Aaron and Moses.
Okay, so Aaron is the brother of Moses.
Right.
That's the problem. We know this because Aaron was like the spokesman for Moses. Aaron was sent along with Moses into Egypt to bring back the Israelites. And so we know Aaron very well. In chapter 66, it makes it even more difficult. In verse 12, it says, "O Miriam," which is the word you're giving to, "the daughter of Imran who guarded her chastity." What's wrong with that? Who is this Imran? Well, isn't that Amram from the Old Testament?
Yeah. Chapter 3 basically is named as the Al Imran, the family of Imran, which is the family of Mary. That's the
We
claim.
know who Amram is. That's the Hebrew Amram. Imran, the same word. Amram is the father of both Moses and Aaron, two brothers. Let's continue on. Chapter 20, verse 30 says, Aaron, Moses, my brother, Moses is speaking, Aaron, my brother. So it's very clear that this Aaron is the brother of Moses. It's not another Aaron from the New Testament time who has a sister named Miriam. Now, we know in the story in the Old Testament that this is true. We do have Aaron, who is the brother of Moses. That's well known. And they both have a sister named Miriam. All three are from Amram, who is the Imran that we see in Arabic. Got the wrong Mary. Whoever put this Quran together, maybe because they were oral, they didn't think it through, they were confusing the two Marys, one from the time of 1400 BC and the other from the 1st century AD. Well, there's 1400 years between them. All three are the children of Amram. In Exodus chapter 6, verse 20, it says that right there in the Bible. Now, Muslims have tried to come back and they say, well, no, this is a form of, she is in the line of Mary, this Mary, the mother of Jesus, is in the line of the Levites, who are the Miriam of the Old Testament. The difficulty with that, and that Amram would be her father. That's not the case. And you need to go to Luke chapter 3. When you go to Luke chapter 3, we see who the father of Mary is. Remember, there are two genealogical lists, one in the 1st chapter of Matthew and the other one in Luke, the 3rd chapter of Luke in the New Testament. And they're completely different genealogical lists. Many people have always brought that up. Muslims have brought that up. You have a contradiction here. How can you have how can you have a genealogical list that starts in Matthew 1 through Joseph, whose father is Jacob, all the way up to David, through Solomon in Matthew 1, and in Luke 3, you have Heli, who they thought, it says who they thought was the father of Joseph. This is just a supposition there. It's not Joseph. Luke is saying that you are, because he's writing to the disciples, who you thought was the father of Joseph, but you know all who Heli is. Not Joseph, who goes all the way up through Nathan to David. So you have two different genealogies with two different sets of people. One goes through Nathan to David, the other goes to Solomon to David. Obviously, we're talking about two different people. One would be Jacob on the one side, the father of Joseph. The other is Heli on their side, the father of Mary. Absolutely two completely different lists. So Amram cannot be Mary's father. Luke says who the father is, and all the disciples do. It's Heli. So you can't get around that. You've got to look and see what the New Testament is saying on that case. Now, the difficulty is you have 1,400 years between them. Unless Mary lived for 1,400 years, I think this is nothing more than another glaring historical anachronism. Do you want to come back on this?
No, I mean, it's very clear, and I think everybody knows about this argument by now because there are many articles that were written about this. So what about the next one now?
Next one, let's go then, and let's go back to the slides again. And this is the Dan Gibson's material on the Qibla itself. In chapter 2, verse 144, and chapter verse 149 and 150, we have the reference that the Qibla is changed, and it's from Jerusalem back down to the Masjid al-Haram. And the Masjid al-Haram, it doesn't say Mecca. Remember, Mecca is only referenced once in the entire Quran, and that's in chapter 48, verse 24. But here's the Masjid al-Haram. Muslims today believe, as you just said earlier in the other episode, that this would be where the Kaaba is. This is the holy place. This is where they bow. This would be the center of Mecca itself. Dan Gibson has, from 1980s up until 2004, 1989 to 2004, he went to 100 of these mosques. He's the only one that has gone there personally. We know that David King says that he is the world's authority on the Qiblas. He only went to one mosque in Uzbekistan, in Tashkent. That's it. Dan Gibson went to all the mosques. And he actually used modern day spectrography to actually find where the Qiblas were, to see where they are. It's very easy to find a Qibla wall because it's the longest wall. There are two long walls. You go and see either one or the other, and you look and see which one is facing closest to what you want to do. And of course, when he looked at them and he saw the angle on every one of them, he saw that up until 706. Now we're talking about the 8th century here. In 706, every mosque, every Qibla was facing, he thought was Petra. And that's why he wrote his book on Quranic geography and then the Qiblas, the whole book on the Qiblas in 2019. And it's that caused all the damage. From 624 up until 706, every Qibla is facing Petra. That's 600 miles further north. You can see where Petra is on the map there. Let's look at the map again, and you can see. But take a look at those Qiblas. Jerusalem, the one in Baghdad, the one in Wasit, the one in Kufa, the one in Guangzhou. Now that one is up in the air, because right now he's admitting that he may have a much more recent mosque there. But even still, it's still facing Petra. The Sherman Mosque in India, that's facing Petra. The Sana'a Mosque, that's facing. So is the Medina and so is the Fustat. These are, in fact, the one in Wasit and the one in Fustat were discovered in 1905 by two other scholars, Fehervari, who actually noticed this very quickly, that the one in Wasit is facing directly west, whereas the one in Fustat outside of Cairo is facing directly east. They should be facing south. So that was discovered back in 1905. Patricia Corona in 1977 and also in 1987 with her book on the Meccan trade, she put this out and said she didn't know, she hadn't seen Dan Gibson, but she said these are not facing Mecca. They should be facing, she thought they were facing Jerusalem. Today, I think Dan is even admitting that some of these could be facing Jerusalem. But that shows a huge anachronism here. You can't have mosques completely facing in other directions. And Shoemaker brings that up. He says, obviously, therefore, it cannot be Mecca that these are facing. These are all facing, in this case, he thought it was Jerusalem, possibly Petra, because he hasn't seen Dan Gibson's work.
Wonderful, wonderful as always. Hope everybody's enjoying all this material. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, have a blessed day. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, CIRA International, and click on the bell so that you receive notifications whenever we publish a new video or go live. I would also like to appeal to you to consider becoming a Patreon patron by clicking the link right below. By doing so, you can give towards the production of these videos. There are also other options for you where you can give to our channel. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.